Hey everyone, James Reeves, TFBTV. Welcome to the TFBTV Casting Love Seat, coming at you live from Hickok 45's basement. You know the man to my left, PSR, print, shoot, repeat, 3D printing god. He knows a lot about 3D printing. We can at least say that. I know very little about 3D printing. I can barely set up my Samsung Smart TV. I couldn't think of anyone else better to have on the program than you to talk about the top 5 3D printed guns. Now, before we get there, 3D printed guns, why?
Well, there's a few reasons. In advance, I got to apologize, James and TFBTV. This video is now age restricted.
Yeah, I know. Just having you on, it's automatically age restricted.
You're welcome. Why? Well, there's a few reasons why. It depends on who you are. It depends on what your goals are in getting into the hobby, right? 3D printing in general, we're not even talking about firearms, is a great way to tinker with things, to learn how to design things in CAD, which is a really valuable skill that can actually lead you into a career in engineering, design. And the gun stuff is, a big giant FU to the government, obviously, because there's no serial number, and it's federally legal to make your own firearm.
Sure, so there's nothing illegal about it per se.
Yes.
So we're not talking about anything illegal here today, even though it's got kind of, that stigma attached to it. That isn't what we're doing, and in fact, it is very much compliant with the law.
Yes.
Specifically, I think the GCA specifically allows it. What is 3D printing? Do I go to Office Max and I buy a Hewlett-Packard 3D printer and then I download a JPEG of an MP5 and I hit print?
That would be cool, but it's not quite like that. But I guess it's just as simple, though. You would go on Amazon.com or your preferable site, I guess, and get a Creality Ender 3 or something similar to that that's really cheap. I mean, you can get Ender 3s for $165 to $200, and you're into the hobby. Now, there's varying, just like printers for paper and documents, the printers you can go nuts with. You can buy a printer that's 20, 30 G's. I mean, you can also buy a metal printer like SIG that costs $500,000.
Yeah, sure.
But the consumer printers, what I use, pretty cheap, right? And so that is how you get into 3D printing. You get a little filament, PLA plus, in the case of what all I have here today, all printed on very, very inexpensive spools of filament, like $20 we're talking, about around that, $25 for more or less something you could print maybe 10 Glock frames with that. So $20, 10 Glock frames, I mean, you did the math.
I swear to God, back in 1996, I got like a Brother bubble jet printer and convinced my mom to buy it for me for homework. And really what I was doing is I was printing out full color Playboy images from Playboy.com, and they would take like 4 minutes to print out. And then my mom would be like, "Why do you need more ink?" And the ink costs more than whatever this PLA, People's Liberation Army bullshit or whatever it is that you're buying here. So in any event, that's my contribution to this video. Let's roll into it. Number 5 is what?
All right, number 5 on my list, because it's functionally, at least the one that I have now, it's not very reliable, but it goes, without saying.
Yeah, for all of them.
All of them, for even the people that use them, maybe not the most reliable people, but it's a giant, also big giant FU to the government, specifically the ATF and 4473s, because it's the glom.
We shot this today. It was less than impressive. The performance is, I would describe, not Glock-like, suboptimal.
Yeah, it's a Glock 26 slide and a 33 round mag only grip.
Right, the bastard sword, two-handed grip
now,
for no recoil whatsoever.
Now I got to give credit to where credit's due. This was designed by Yeezy Prints, and it's obviously meant as a statement piece. It's really kind of it's a good like coffee table piece, honestly. It's functional as a water pipe, of course, for tobacco use only. This is kind of like, well, we're just going to 3D print a bong that's also a gun. And so that's what this is. And I know that these have functioned much better than they do now. It's just the standard 3D printed Glock internals, but I think there's maybe some stuff going on with the maybe how I printed it or something, that I'll put the excuse on me and my incompetence as a printer, maybe, that we got those malfunctions. But I think it'll run great if you decide to print it. And also, this is a remix. These Dick Vein psychedelic.
Yeah. I was about to say it's like tactical testicle skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Texture.
Reptile testicle kind of vibes. But that's a remix designed by Chairman One, and that's another thing about the culture of the 3D printing community is there's all these remixes. So the whole thing about 3D printing is like free designs out there to download.
Right.
No payment at all. Like you shouldn't have to pay for files. If you're paying for files, you're doing something wrong. So they'll give you the whole file to design and redesign it if you want. So this is a remix of the original Glock.
That's neat. So like you can take dog shit and you can remix it into like dog shit Mark II. It starts a conversation, right?
Yes.
It starts a conversation. So love it or hate it, this silly ass little bastard sword bong gun is something that has raised awareness about, and everybody's raised awareness,
Yeah.
but truly like it is raised
Zeitgeist.
awareness.
Yeah.
Like dude, how did he do that? Oh
Yeah.
well, man, he 3D printed. He went to Office Max and got the Brother 3D printer.
Couldn't buy
downloaded
it.
a JPEG of this and printed it out. The fourth controversial 3D printed firearm. What do we have?
The Plastikov. This is a 3D printed AK, and it's specifically a 3D printed Draco. So this is the Plastikov version 4, the Plastikov V4, and it's designed by Navigo Boom / Ivan the Troll. Shouts out to him. We got a couple other designs of his on here, but this is using a Draco parts kit that's head-spaced, and I didn't use any tools other than the 3D printer and some basic hand tools like files and screws and whatnot and hardware to make this thing in my living room. So this is a way to not have to go through all the tools and stuff to make a receiver that's 80% or full bending flats and all that stuff, and using the complex tools you got to press the barrel and all that stuff. This is a way to do that.
So if I buy a properly head-spaced parts kit, I need no other than like hand tools, simple hand tools. I need nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay. We can all see, us and the viewers at home, that this is a piece of shit. But that said, it makes it less of a piece of shit. Now that we know that like you don't need like tools, and that's because that's the real pain in the ass for AKs.
Yes.
Like if you want to build an AK at home, you need some equipment. You need some know-how.
Yes.
But, I guess you could 3D print. And then you do have some other perks, like we talked about the fact that you've got the pick rail. You can throw whatever stock or brace on it that you want. Reliable return to zero optics mounting system. And then, of course, the fact that it's unserialized.
Exactly. That's kind of the icing on the cake for this one. I just liked how it is super simple to build, and that makes it way more attractive. If you want an AK and you want to build one, let's just say you like building stuff, you could go and buy a Draco legally, of course, but you want to build one. This is how you do it for less money, and also less complex tools and all that, and it's fun because you do get a couple extra features like the pick rail and stuff. And this is a monolithic receiver, which is different than any other AK, which is kind of cool. So this whole piece is one piece, and then the trigger pack is actually separate, and you kind of slide it in, and that makes installing the fire control group super easy. We got a safety on it. This is iteration. The version 4 actually has a safety the previous versions did not. The other thing that I forgot to mention is it doesn't just support the Draco. It supports really any AKM, including like AMD 65s and stuff like that. So you can use,
that's cool.
You can use those parts kits. They will fit. Yugo ones I don't believe are compatible with this, but any AKM it works. So if there's Polish kits that are 545, so some of those ones are harder to come by than others, but the Romanian ones, they'll fit. They're just anything AKM. So it is a little versatile.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, not my favorite thing in the world. I'd rather just like have the AK, but ultimately we may not have that luxury. So it's nice to keep this in your back pocket, I suppose. If you're one of those 3D printing nerds, if you're an AK nerd, I mean, really, God, can you imagine the smell of somebody who's like an AK guy and a 3D printer emanating from mother's basement? Can you imagine?
My number 3 is gonna be CZAR. So this is called the CZAR. It was designed by originally, of course, my good friend Ivan Navigo Boom, and Ivan got this. This got remixed by Booligan Shooting Sports, and then Ivan kind of did his own reiteration of it for version 2. But this is a VZ61 Scorpion, so the original Scorpion, but it's got a, of course, 3D printed lower, which utilizes some cool parts. Like we have an optics mount, which the original Scorpion doesn't have. We've got a Picatinny rail, which the original Scorpion doesn't have. It's got an AR fire control group, which
cool.
is pretty cool, and it allows you to mount AR grips, so any AR grip. And this is just using a standard AR fire control group, but you could put like you could put a Geisley in there if you wanted, and get it running pretty quick. And you could put a binary in there, which I know it's a little silly putting a Geisley in the 3D printed. Scorpion.
Yeah, you've got a trigger that's worth more than the entire gun.
Yes,
got it.
Exactly. Which there's a lot of that. You know, it's a silly thing, but yeah, this parts kit I think cost me maybe $280.
They're fun guns, and they're difficult to get one that's intact or one that's been rebuilt. I think there's a company, I can't remember, it's like, Checkpoint or Checkmate or something like that, where I know that they make some that I've heard are decent, but they're also kind of expensive. So to me, I see some value here. You get the ability to add whatever stock you want. You get the ability to add whatever optic you want. You get the ability to have an AR trigger that's far superior to the original trigger. You're talking about a 32 ACP. You're not worried about this gun effing blowing up. Basically, you got a polymer lower receiver that's probably not going to see like a whole lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, this was one of the first guns that I printed ever, and it is still holding together. I mean, the polylactic acid, the PLA, the People's Liberation plastic, is pretty. It's pretty it's pretty durable, and it doesn't get any. It doesn't really go into any problems until you put it into a hot environment.
Okay.
So,
as somebody who's not like a ghost gun person, or like where that's important to me, or like making my own at home, this is the most attractive of all the things that we've kind of looked at so far, just because like I would like to have a Scorpion, a 32 ACP Scorpion, and this seems like a really cheap and easy way to get into it. Plus you get some upgrades. So I actually am pretty cool with this gun. I like this one. All right, what's number 2?
All right, we have the iconic FGC9 Mark II. The FGC9 Mark II was designed by Jay Stark and Navigo Boom. So,
right. R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jay Stark. So this is a pistol caliber carbine that requires no gun parts to make. You can make the bolt with JB weld and just plain old steel, bar stock steel. You can ECM rifle the barrel, meaning you electrochemical machine the rifling and using electricity. So there's basically, you can make this without any gun parts, which makes it super relevant for like people in countries, let's say like Burma, where they're fighting a military dictatorship. Being able to train people on weapons platforms using this as just like a way to train people, or actually use it in combat. We've seen footage of them being shot and used in combat. So
I think what's important to emphasize here, because we kind of took this information for granted, understanding that a lot of the viewers here are going to be familiar with 3D printing, but you said this requires no gun parts. The thing with 3D printing, especially all the guns that we've looked at, they've required, like, the Glock needs a Glock slide and barrel, like a Glock upper. You need the parts kit for the Plastikov, and then the Scorpion, which I was calling the Skibbity Scorpion. The Skibbity Scorpion needs, you got to buy a parts kit for that as well. But this, you literally need nothing. You could theoretically make this at home with just a modicum of know-how and rudimentary tools.
And the fire control group, I have a normal AR one in there. It takes AR fire control group, but you can 3D print the fire control group, and you can also get airsoft fire control groups that can be modified to work. The other cool thing is this bolt carrier is actually printed. The bolt inside is just a bar stock that you lay on top of each other. One's a smaller one, one's a bigger one that goes back into here with the spring. And without getting too technical, it's actually got, this is a 3D printed bolt carrier. So it's obviously you need steel, you need metal. So there's metal in here, so you're not getting it through a metal detector.
Magazines. Can I 3D print the magazines? Because
Yes.
I noticed, like, it takes Glock mags.
Yes, 3D printed Glock mags are probably the most printed mag as far as this one is not printed. I do have a printed mag for this gun, and it's a 25 rounder just like this one. This is a Magpul one, but it takes Glock mags. You can 3D print Glock mags.
Yeah, because I mean, if you could 3D print everything else, but you still needed to get the
Glock.
magazine somewhere,
That's
I mean,
huge.
getting a magazine might be very difficult,
Absolutely,
like if you're behind enemy lines.
Absolutely, especially in places like Burma. And so they actually have a jig that you can print that will allow you to bend the springs properly to make the magazine.
That's cool. And it's funny because I've got a love-hate with this gun. This is one of the most disgusting firearms that I've ever seen, just in terms of overall aesthetic. I'm reviled sitting here next to it, being this close to it. I know, like I can smell the Krylon over here. It's making me heave a little bit, just in conjunction with the appearance of this gun. And I know it's the FGC, like I call it the f***ing gross carbine or the fat gross carbine, and I know it's the gun control 9. However, that all aside, I think that this is one of the most relevant firearms possibly in history, just because of the fact that if you're an oppressed person or a group or whatever the case may be, you've been disarmed, this gives you an option and a functional option. So I tremendously, notwithstanding everything I just said, respect this gun. So this probably would have been my number one, but I know what the number one is because I can see it out of the corner of my little eye.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, as far as 3D printed guns go, this one was by far the most fun to shoot.
Yes.
Let's have a look at it.
All right.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, and that gun is the 3D printed MP5. Oh, yeah, this is what started the whole thing with the HK slap, yeah? This is what got me into this HK slap. This is the KF5, and it is designed by none other than, of course, Navigo Boom. It's too fun for me not to have it in my number one.
Yeah, baby.
All right, this thing does not suck.
I just get a giggle every time I shoot this thing. It's so smooth. It's such a pleasure to shoot, and it's just like super pretty simple to put together too. And it's also my first gun where I had a video that got a strike. So it whole
Congratulations!
from YouTube,
Yeah, a little bit of sentimental value
yeah,
there. Yeah,
definitely some sentimental value, and you know, it's what kind of spawned the HK slap song, and I know HK loves that song, and so. Yeah, here you go, James. This is the 3D printed MP5.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you know, it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense because the parts kits are not cheap. You know what, man? I would love to buy a Porsche 911 for $120,000, but I could spend $90,000 and I could get all the parts for it and build the chassis out of paper mache. It's like, okay, yeah. That sounds like very, very reasonable, a very reasonable thing to do. So again, you know, ghost gun stuff aside, you know, if you're just looking at this from a pragmatic standpoint or from a cost benefit standpoint, this doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me, but it was very fun to shoot. It was fun to shoot, and you do get the ability, right? I mean, you know, you've got optics mounting.
We got pick rail,
right? You can add your own front sight.
What about this, dude?
Oh, that's true. That is true. So the semi-auto regular trigger pack for the HK MP5.
Dog shit.
It's true. It's true. Being able to use an AR fire control group in this is it's pretty rad. So yes, there are some performance additions. I will say the lack of a paddle mag release on this makes it not that this thing was ever anything close to cool, but yeah, but it makes it substantially less cooler. Like, you know, you don't have that paddle mag.
Now, to be fair, Ivan did include a paddle mag release version, but I decided not to print it because I felt like with the AR, it was close enough. So the normal MP5, you have to really reach around if you want to do
Give it the old reach around.
That's why you always do the paddle mag release, is because you can't reach it. But that one you can reach.
Really fortunate that you removed the weak point of the H&K MP5, which would be the diopter sights. I mean, now I can just spend more money, and I can spend more money on Amazon.com and get Chinesium flip-up sights instead of the legendarily spectacular diopter sights from the original MP5. So, docked a point for that. Shooting experience, stellar.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot bust a roller delayed 9mm PCC. It
And
is
it's
substantially lighter. It's substantially lighter.
Definitely lighter.
Dude, this thing was a hoot to shoot. Of all the guns that we shot today, this one was probably the most fun to shoot. I still hate it.
Okay.
I still hate almost everything about it, but I have to admit that this was a blast. And you know what else was a blast?
What?
You being on the program.
Oh,
You know that?
thanks.
You know that? Thank you. No, seriously.
No,
You're a
thank
good
you,
friend,
James.
Mr. PSR.
Yeah, we're like this now.
Yeah, we're not the same person, contrary to popular belief. In fact, yeah, you're much smarter than I am because I could not handle this shit. And you guys might be the smartest viewers out there because you're here watching TFBTV live from Hickok 45's basement. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and take care.